This is an ABC News special report.
Major news in the Russian investigation.
Robert Mueller has charged
Lieutenant General Michael T. Flynn.
When former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn pleaded guilty earlier this week, his indictment claimed he'd been directed by someone on Donald Trump's transition team to reach out to the Russians. And so began the frenzied media hunt to find out who that was. ABC's lead investigative reporter Brian Ross appeared to be the one with the scoop.
He is prepared to testify that President Trump, as a candidate, Donald Trump, directed him to make contact with the Russians.
That would directly tie the president to the Russia scandal.
Now that report caused the Dow Jones to take a nosedive, dropping 350 points at one point.
Except Ross misquoted his source, and it took ABC News hours to correct the mistake.
And David, a clarification tonight on something one of Flynn's confidants told us and we reported earlier today.
Ross has been suspended 4 weeks and will be banned from covering Trump when he's back. And it's not just ABC News. On Friday, CNN had to walk back its exclusive. It suggested the Trump team had advanced notice of the WikiLeaks emails. Turns out they got the date wrong. Is there room for human error in journalism? Tom Rosenstiel is a journalist and executive director of the American Press Institute.
All right, so Tom, as journalists, and by definition, when someone is an investigative reporter, it speaks to their experience, their understanding of the need to get the nuance right, as well as the details. They understand the consequences of mistakes. How on earth did this happen?
Well, speed and eagerness, I think, are probably the key factors that explain it. And there's an old axiom in journalism that there is no benefit to being first with a story that is wrong. And no one wants to have a scoop that remains a scoop forever, because that means that no one else could confirm it. These are really basic essentials that are true of any reporting and are truer of investigative reporting, because investigative reporting by its nature usually is pointing out some wrongdoing. This is not he said, she said journalism where you are covering a debate, you are uncovering facts. The other mistake that Ross appeared to make when you parse his explanation or what he calls his clarification is he said they were unable to confirm this with his source, which implies that he had a single source. The essence of journalism, all journalism, is verification, and the essence of investigative journalism is bulletproof verification. Having one source is an assertion. If you haven't verified that with multiple sources, if you haven't corroborated it, you're simply passing things along.
We know that the consequence immediately was, first of all, the Dow dropped. Second, that the Brian Ross is sitting at home for a little while. But beyond that, and I want to just read a quote for you from ABC News President James Goldston, who was quoted as saying, "This is not acceptable. We will all pay the price for a long time," all being beyond ABC News, I think journalists generally. Do you agree that in the climate that we're in right now, where we are being held to extraordinary levels of scrutiny, that this just didn't help?
Yeah, the fact that the market moves is a reminder that journalism does not operate in a vacuum, that there are consequences. The fact that you are reporting about Trump, who has described the press as the enemy of the people, and when the American president uses rhetoric like that, leaders all over the world will begin to wonder whether they should emulate rhetoric like that. The stakes are even higher. It doesn't matter how many stories you have right as a journalist, you will be remembered for the ones you get wrong. And in particular, in this environment, a small mistake proves the case that Trump wants to make, that any press he dislikes is fake news.
What is the final takeaway for investigative journalists here? Because as I pointed out earlier, I mean, the reality is that we're all human and we make mistakes. And it's, you know, there by the grace of God that we aren't all in his position, because things do happen. What is the takeaway? Is it slow down? And is that realistic in the climate that we all work in?
Well, I think there are two takeaways. One is that it's not the mistakes that people make that matter, it's how they react to them that matter in the end, because as you say, everyone does make mistakes. So it's what the press learns from this that I think will be its lasting legacy. This is not the first mistake Brian Ross has made. The other one is a reminder that a scoop is only a scoop today for 20, 30 seconds, and that it is far more important to get things right. My guess is this is how Brian Ross's career will end and how he'll be remembered, and that is going to be a caution for everyone in journalism.
Tom, thank you for this.
My pleasure.